All right, kids. Welcome back to Hawk After Dark. I'm your host, Hawk. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining us again. In this episode, we're going to talk about two people. One is the tech investor, tech billionaire Peter Thiel, who is largely responsible for the fact that we have JD Vance in American politics today. We're going to talk about Mr. Thiel's history, how he became the tech investor that he became, his interest in politics, where that came from, what his political leanings are, and how it came that JD Vance became a protege, an employee. Peter Thiel is largely responsible for making JD Vance a wealthy person. And he, in large part, bankrolled JD Vance's run for Senate in the state of Ohio in 2022, and then was instrumental in elevating him to the position of Donald Trump's vice presidential pick this year. The second, well, we're going to talk about Peter second. The first person we're going to talk about is a guy named Kash Patel, who was an utterly incompetent senior level official in Donald Trump's first administration. Hopefully there won't be a second. There is a great article out today in The Atlantic by a reporter named Elena Plott Calabro. And it's about Kash Patel, and it's simply titled "The Man Who Will Do Anything for Trump: Why Kash Patel is Exactly the Kind of Person Who Would Serve in a Second Trump Administration." Kash Patel is loyal to Donald Trump, period. Beginning, middle, end. He is loyal to Donald Trump and will do the things that Donald Trump wants to be done in a second administration. Trump tried to set Kash Patel up to do a lot of those things in Trump's first administration and was thwarted by a lot of the adults in the room for the most part. However, first off, we're going to start talking about the three books that Kash Patel has written. He has also authored three books. The first one is Government Gangsters, The Deep State, The Truth, and the Battle for Our Democracy. That came out about a year ago. Donald Trump wrote a blurb on the book. A brilliant roadmap highlighting every corrupt actor to ultimately return to our agencies and departments to work for the American people. Excuse me. We will use this blueprint to help us take back the White House and remove these gangsters from all of government. The book's description goes on to say it's about a sinister cabal of corrupt law enforcement personnel, intelligence agents, and military officials at the highest levels of government who plotted to overthrow a president. Even after they failed, they continued to secretly pull the levers of power without any accountability to the American people. Blah, 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 blah. That's not even his best book. His other two books that he has written, which I think I'm going to read this stuff about the other two books that he wrote. They're children's books. He wrote two children's books. You guys are going to think I'm making this up. I'm not making this up. The first children's book that he wrote is The Plot Against the King. Former Trump official Kash Patel, in his children's book, a children's book about the Steele dossier. A children's book about the Steele dossier. Story with characters such as King Donald and his enemy Hillary Quinton, gives a revisionist account of the FBI inquiry that dogged Donald Trump's presidency. In the book, The Plot Against the King, Kash Patel repeats Trump's false claims that the FBI began investigating links between his campaign and Russia based on the dossier compiled by Christopher Steele, a former British spy. Did I mention this is a book for children? It bizarrely uses the tool of children's fictional characters to provide a revisionist account of the probe into Trump's presidency that lasted almost 2 years. The book claims that the king was accused of cheating by a shifty knight, which is Democratic chair of the Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, who claims to have a paper from a Steele box attesting to wrongdoing on the part of the king. But Patel writes that he then found evidence that the slug Creepy Comey put slugs in the steel box at the behest of Hillary Quinton, who was also vying for the throne. Kash Patel is a character in the book. He's a wizard who saves the day. I didn't actually make that up, I swear to God. His second book, again, another children's book, The Plot Against the King, 2,000 Mules. Kash Patel tells the fantastical story of how two inquisitive minds, Dinesh and Debbie, search for the truth and uncover evidence of a terrible scheme to elect Sleepy Joe instead of King Donald on choosing day. Included in the book is a special message from Dinesh D'Souza, who made the film 2,000 Mules. Come join Dinesh. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. Come join Dinesh and Debbie as they try to answer some troubling questions. Why did the counting stop in the middle of the night? Why were there more votes than people in the kingdom? What is up with all the glowing poo? I swear to God, I did not make that up. Donald Trump wanted Kash Patel's books in every elementary school in the nation. The second book is largely based on Dinesh D'Souza's widely disparaged movie 2,000 Mules, which the people who provided the data upon which Dinesh D'Souza based that movie had to testify in open court in Atlanta earlier this year that they have absolutely no evidence at all to support any of the allegations that they made relative to the 2020 election being stolen. And then Dinesh D'Souza's book and movie, 2,000 Mules, were both pulled from circulation. So those are the books written by the guy that Donald Trump, if he's reelected, will probably make the director of the CIA or the attorney general or the head of the FBI. Yeah. Anyway, Kash Patel is a guy who his parents were immigrants, and his name's spelled Cash with a K. And this amazing article, again, in The Atlantic, it came out today by Elena Platt-Calabro. It's called The Man Who Will Do Anything for Trump. It starts out with a great few lines. Kash Patel was dangerous. On this, both Trump appointees and career officials could agree. A 40-year-old lawyer with very little government experience, he joined the administration in 2019 and rose rapidly. Each new title he gained set off new alarms. When Patel was installed as chief of staff to the acting Secretary of Defense just after the 2020 election, Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, advised him not to break the law in order to keep Donald Trump in power. Life looks really shitty from behind bars, Milley reportedly told Patel. They're all felons. They are all felons. They're just all felons. When Trump entertained naming Patel as deputy director of the FBI, Attorney General Bill Barr confronted the White House chief of staff and said, "Over my dead body." When, in the final weeks of his administration, Trump planned to name Patel deputy director of the CIA, Gina Haspel, the head of the agency, threatened to resign. Trump relented only after an intervention by Vice President Mike Pence and others. Who was this man, and why did so many top officials fear him? I don't think they were afraid of him. I think they just thought he was an incompetent dipshit who would literally do anything that Donald Trump wanted him to do. And they decided maybe we shouldn't let somebody like that be the assistant, the deputy director of the CIA. It wasn't a question of ideology. He wasn't a zealot like Stephen Miller trying to make the bureaucracy yield to his agenda. Rather, Patel appeared singularly focused on pleasing Trump. Even in an administration full of loyalists, Patel was exceptional in his devotion. He was just a bootlicker. That's it. For some reason, he decided, I'm going to throw away my entire life in service to Donald John Trump. And Trump fucking loved him. Trump absolutely loved him. Thinks he's crazy, but loves him. and that's why these people felt that he was dangerous. He didn't have an ideology. He didn't have a set of beliefs. Like that whack job Stephen Miller, who just absolutely hates everybody who's not a straight white Christian man, even though Stephen Miller is Jewish. But these senior people in Trump's first administration were just like, this guy has no beliefs. He has no ideology. He will do whatever Donald Trump asks him to do. What wouldn't he do if Trump asked him to do it? And they were like, nah, we got to keep this guy out. And they tried, but they failed. Most Americans, even today, most Americans have no idea who Kash Patel is. They certainly had no idea who he was 5 years ago in 2019. Yet rarely a day passed when administration leaders weren't reminded that he existed. In a year and 8 months, they would have watched Patel leapfrog, again, with almost zero qualifications, from the National Security Council, where he became the senior counterterrorism director. He had absolutely no background in that. To the office of the Director of National Intelligence, where he was principal deputy to the acting director, no background for that. To the Department of Defense, where his influence rivaled that of the acting Secretary of Defense himself. However, should Donald Trump return for a second term, there won't be any General Millies. There won't be any Gina Haspels. There won't be a Bill Barr. There won't be any adults in the room like a Jim Mattis, to prevent Trump from putting Kash Patel in one of those positions. AG, head of the FBI, head of the CIA. Because Kash Patel is 100% on board with Trump's stated missions of vengeance, punishment, retribution against his political enemies. And Kash Patel is loyal to Donald Trump. He is not loyal to the United States. He is not loyal to the Constitution. This past December, before a gala of young Republicans, Donald Trump said to Kash Patel, "Get ready, Kash. Get ready." Oh, man. Okay. So what has Kash Patel been doing in the almost 4 years that Trump has been out of office? You'll be shocked. Shocked, I say, to learn that he's been grifting. That's right. There is, for example, his merch store, his online merch store, where you can get the official Kash wine. K$H. Kash wine. It's $234 for 6 bottles. And the Fight with Kash Punisher reversible scarf for $25, which apparently is a scarf that has an image of the Punisher logo on it. There are Take a Lap Rhino tank tops, Justice for All January 6 tees, and Kash Crew golf polos. Those all sell for between $35 and $53. Then there are the 3 books that we just discussed. The Plot Against the King. The Plot Against the King, 2,000 Mules. There is also at least one song. Kash Patel produced the song Justice for All, a version of the national anthem sung by the jailed January 6 defendants and played by Trump frequently this year at his 2024 campaign rallies. Jesus Christ. I love this part on this page, towards the end of this page in parentheses. Just as this article was going to press, most of the merch was removed from Kash Patel's online websites. He has also worked as a national security advisor to Trump since Trump left office in January of 2001. He's been paid more than $300,000 over the past 2 years. And he's a consultant for Trump Media and Technology Group, the owner of Truth Social. They paid him $130,000 last year. Nevertheless, Patel at times has vented that he deserves more, according to 2 people that the author spoke with. He complains about money all the time, like he doesn't have any money. He can't make any money. Nobody will hire him. Anybody who was as big of a deal as he was in the past administration would come out and they'd be on the board of Raytheon or Boeing. Unless it's Kash Patel, who's utterly incompetent and has no background in any of those things. He was a U.S. attorney for some time, and he is currently also marketing Orange Mad Bad Punisher Skull license plates and dubious supplements while fielding questions about which national security law enforcement agency he might like to run. Steve Bannon asked him the following: I know you're probably going to be head of the CIA, but do you believe that you can deliver the goods on this in pretty short order in the first couple of months so that we can get rolling on prosecutions? Patel expressed no doubt about his capacity to deliver the goods. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're coming after you, said Trump. A lot of people say Kash is crazy. I kind of think he's crazy, but sometimes you need a little crazy. Awesome. He had some bad experiences in federal court and at the DOJ as a prosecutor. And when he left the DOJ, then he met Devin Nunes, who at the time, this was when Republicans still controlled the House of Representatives, and Devin Nunes had he was head of the Intelligence Committee at the time, I believe, and they were investigating the Steele dossier. And he was making all of these like midnight trips to the White House with evidence that they found. And Kash Patel was a staffer on that committee for Devin Nunes and was one of the lead investigators, essentially, in that farce, I guess, is the word I would use, because what the work that committee did was an absolute farce. But you know, he, as in his book, The Plot Against the King, where, you know, evil Queen Hillary stole the election from King Donald, or stole the throne from him, and Kash Patel, the wizard, comes in and saves the day. You know, Kash Patel has this history of, you know, incredible grievance because he's being mistreated by whatever agency, department, or whoever he's working for, while also painting himself as the absolute hero who came in and saves the day. And so in that regard, he and Donald Trump are kind of like kindred spirits, because they both view themselves as the hero and the victim and the savior all at the same time. And so they kind of connect with each other on that kind of level. He just feels extraordinarily mistreated all the time. And when the Intelligence Committee under Devin Nunes put out a 4-page report, most of which was written by Kash Patel, it was roundly viewed as a work of fiction and largely bullshit. And so then Republicans lost control of the House, and Devin Nunes got Kash Patel a job in Trump's White House, which is where Kash Patel always wanted to end up. Former administration officials told the author of this article that from his first days as a staffer on the National Security Council in February 2019, Patel was fixated on trying to get FaceTime with Trump. He had a script, and he practiced itself. He recited it in front of others. Many of his colleagues could recite it themselves because they had heard him recite it so many times. Mr. President, the deep state is out to get you, and I'm going to save you from it. How broken do you have to be as a human being to desperately want FaceTime with Donald Trump and practice for months that when you first meet Donald Trump, you're going to look at him the first time he meets you and say, Mr. President, the deep state is out to get you, and I'm going to save you from it. But here's the beauty. In Trump's world, that worked. That worked. and Patel was made senior director of the National Security Council's Counterterrorism Directorate, which he had no experience in doing. In the closing months of Trump's administration, he gave him that senior undersecretary position at the Department of Defense, largely because Trump wanted access to intelligence. He wanted access to intelligence that the Defense Department had relative to Donald Trump and Russia. Alas, Kash Patel, as far as we know, was not able to get it. There's no public reports that Kash Patel was able to obtain those classified top secret documents and give them to Donald Trump, which reminds me of one other thing. When the FBI executed a search warrant on Mar-a-Lago in the classified documents case, Kash Patel, unprompted, came forward and gave a public statement saying, I was in the Oval Office with Donald Trump when Donald Trump gave the standing order that any documents he took out of the White House into either Bedminster in New Jersey or Mar-a-Lago in Florida, anytime he took documents there, that those documents were automatically declassified, and which, led to him having to testify in front of Jack Smith's grand jury under a partial immunity agreement. The point is that Kash Patel is a singularly dangerous individual because Donald Trump loves him and will put him in a position like acting attorney general, acting head of the FBI, acting head of the CIA, because Kash Patel will never get Senate confirmation because he's such a dangerous boob. And in those positions, he will do absolutely anything that Donald Trump asks him to do, whether it's legal or not. And that concludes our discussion on Kash Patel. All right. We need a little palate cleanser for that. There we go. Let's turn to Peter Thiel, last name spelled Thiel. He's a venture capitalist. He's an entrepreneur. He was a co-founder of PayPal. That was his first big payday. He's got venture capital funds. He founded a company that we're going to talk about a little bit called Palantir Technologies. He founded that company in 2003. So a couple of years, year and a half after 9/11. And it's the first investor in Palantir was the venture capital arm of the CIA. And reading about this was the first time that I found out that the CIA had a venture capital department that invests in companies. The CIA was one of his first major investors in Palantir because basically the stated goal of Palantir is maximally invasive surveillance and data gathering in a way that nobody knows that they're actually doing it. Palantir collects data on every single one of us, every single fucking day, paid for by the CIA. And it has ended up with Peter Thiel being worth about $11.2 billion. However, Peter Thiel has made some incredibly good investments as well. There was one thing that I wanted to find. So he was the first outside investor in Facebook. In 2004, he purchased a little over 10% of the company for $500,000, and he was on their board of directors. And that $500,000 investment became worth several billion dollars about 12 years later when Facebook went public. Early on, and here's another thing that he did, which is fascinating to me. In 2021, it was revealed by ProPublica that Thiel had purchased 1.7 million founders shares in the entity that would become PayPal using $1,700 in a Roth IRA, and he made that transaction in 1999. Due to the rapid growth in the value of the shares as PayPal grew, and then it was sold to eBay for $1.5 billion. It allowed Peter Thiel to turn his $1,700 Roth IRA into an account that, as of 2019, was worth more than $5 billion. So in 20 years, he invested $1,700 that became $5 billion. And if Thiel waits until he turns 60 in 2027, he can withdraw the entire $5 billion in that IRA account tax-free. That's fucked up. I mean, it's capitalism, I guess, and it's, I wouldn't mind being able to turn $1,700 into $5 billion in 20 years, largely not touching it. But, I'm not that bright. I tell people that I'm very smart. I'm a very smart person, but a lot of times I'm just not very bright. And so it never would have dawned on me. Whatever. So he's his political views. So it's like he came to Silicon Valley after working in New York as a corporate lawyer for a couple of years. He comes back to Silicon Valley in like 1996, 1997, immediately gets into the PayPal thing. And the funny thing about PayPal is when it was first started, it was kind of intended to be like a cryptocurrency kind of thing. It's like, these private transfers of money that were kind of outside of the prying eyes or regulation of government. And, which is kind of sort of what cryptocurrency and Bitcoin were, first started out as, unregulated transfers of money around the globe sort of thing. But just with PayPal, you're using credit cards. So I'll tell you some more about his bio, his background. He was born in Germany in 1967. When he was 1 year old, he and his folks emigrated to Cleveland. So he grew up there. His family had also lived in South Africa and Namibia. He was an avid Dungeons and Dragons player. He's a huge fan of J.R.R. Tolkien. He's read The Lord of the Rings over 10 times. 6 of the companies that he has founded have adopted names originating from J.R.R. Tolkien's books. Palantir, Valar, Mithril, Lembas, Rivendell, Arda Capital. So, he was valedictorian of his high school. He went to Stanford College, Stanford University here in Palo Alto. He's gay, which he tried for many, many years to hide. When the website Gawker outed him as gay around 2015 or something like that, they published a piece on their site that said, Peter Thiel is totally gay, everybody. He sued them out of existence. He sued them, and then he funded a lawsuit against Gawker in which Hulk Hogan was the plaintiff because Gawker had published a sex tape that involved somebody named Bubba the Love Sponge having sex with Hulk Hogan's wife while Hulk Hogan watched. And so he sued Gawker out of existence entirety. He bankrupted them. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Let's talk about his politics. He describes himself, or has described himself, as a conservative libertarian, but those views have, it seems, gotten a bit more extreme over the years to the point now where he's not really interested in democracy at all. And in a 2000, he considers himself Like all these guys. I mean, like a lot of these guys. I'll put it this way: it's clear that Peter Thiel is extremely smart, and his ego seems to match that, and he has an outsized view of himself and his intellect, and considers himself to be a public intellectual, and firmly believes that all of us need to be regaled repeatedly with his, political ideologies, beliefs, theories, philosophies. And so it's like he likes to write a lot of essays, and he likes to put out essays about things. And he's written some books. And the first book that he wrote in 1995, called The Diversity Myth, that he wrote with a guy named David Sachs, who's also a tech guy who became wealthy from PayPal, I think, initially. He's also a tech investor. David Sachs spoke at the Republican convention a month ago, and he held at least one fundraiser for Trump and JD Vance at his mansion here in San Francisco, that was attended by all kinds of other billionaires in their little network, including Peter Thiel was at that fundraiser. It's just this big incestuous group of incredibly wealthy white men, largely white men, and essentially at the bottom of the funnel, they basically picked JD Vance to be Trump's running mate through Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and David Sachs and their connection to Donald Trump, and also through their connections to Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump Jr., who demanded that their father choose JD Vance. And we've all seen how that has worked out for them. But there was a really good, I went down a rabbit hole on this yesterday. So there's the guys who do the Pod Save America podcast, Jon Favreau, Tommy Vitor, I can't remember the other guys' names. So they do the Pod Save America. Everybody knows those guys. Jon Favreau does a separate podcast that comes out on Sundays. It's called Offline with Jon Favreau. And he had a guest host on yesterday, but it comes out on Sundays. Yesterday's episode is like an hour long, and it's all about Peter Thiel. And it's really fascinating. It's very dense. It's not a super easy listen, but there's just some really jacked up information in there. And there was one thing that I wanted to find in some book or some essay that he wrote years and years ago. I mean, he was stating flat out, he was like, he doesn't believe that, he doesn't really believe in any form of democracy anymore. He doesn't believe that the general citizenry, the great unwashed masses, should be permitted to vote. And he was forced to say that publicly a few years ago. Hang on. Tiny print. Got to put my readers on. Try not to poke my eye out. There was another line from Peter Thiel in an essay that he put out in 2009. He wrote about not just opposing democracy, but that he also said, he came out of nowhere. He says that since 1920, the vast increase in welfare beneficiaries and the extension of the voting franchise to women have rendered the notion of capitalist democracy into an oxymoron. He basically says that capitalism and freedom and democracy cannot coexist with each other. And here's the best part. I mean, he's a gay man who's basically saying in 2009, everything was great until we gave women the right to vote. And how detached these guys are from reality and how detached they are from society, these billionaire classes. He wrote that down and thought that was fine. He wrote that down and was like, "Yep, that's it. I'm gonna hit publish on that, and I'm gonna publish that, and I'm gonna put that out there in public so that other people can read that and know that I'm the one who said that. I'm sure that'll be completely fine. Everything was great until we gave women the right to vote. Freedom and democracy are incompatible with each other. Therefore, we should do away with democracy." What the fuck? Who thinks this? If I was a billionaire, this is the last shit that I would be thinking about. I'd be donating hordes of money to good causes that would piss off the right, and I'd be taking a lot of vacations, and I'd have an even better drum set than the one that I have now. That's what I would be doing. I would be making sure that all my friends and family had absolutely incredible fucking lives. I would not be sitting around thinking, oh, the real problem with everything here is that women got the right to vote and democracy sucks. The fuck is wrong with these people? So he had to put out a second essay clarifying that. And here's his clarification. His clarification is, I didn't specifically mean that everything in this country went to shit when women got the right to vote. I just don't think that anybody should have the right to vote in the United States. That's the line that he thought would fix the first one. Oh, no, that didn't. Oh, but I thought if I wrote the second thing, that would make the first thing. Oh, it made it worse. It made it a lot worse. Well, that sucks. I mean, who cares? All these people are stupid. I'm a billionaire. I know more than them. They should all just listen to me because I'm better and smarter. No, they don't. They think I'm a dick. Oh, well, that's a bummer. I mean, what could possibly be these people's inner dialogues, man? I just don't understand. So anyway, as it relates to JD Vance and why he's now Donald Trump's vice presidential pick, in 2011, when JD Vance was just a wee lad at Yale Law School, Peter Thiel gave a speech at Yale Law School, and JD Vance called it one of the most transformative moments of his entire life. He was transfixed. He met Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, for some fucking reason, was impressed with JD Vance and eventually hired JD Vance, as, I don't know, an investment banker, a tech investor. But Peter Thiel and people around Peter Thiel were like, yeah, we really need people like JD Vance in our inner circles, especially after he wrote Hillbilly Elegy. And Peter Thiel and the moneyed class were like, oh, what a fascinating book. Oh, you wrote about poor people. Oh, my God. This is just, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like this ever before in my life. From the window of my mansion on Vallejo Street and Billionaires Row in San Francisco, who are these unwashed poor people of which you have written this book? And, so Peter Thiel made JD Vance a multimillionaire and a tech investor, and apparently just scrambled his brain like a fucking omelet. Because it's like, JD Vance comes away from that talking about the problem in this country is women of childbearing age who haven't had children, which is right up there with Peter Thiel saying everything in this country went to shit when we gave women the right to vote. It's like, these guys fucking hate women, man. And, so JD Vance became Peter Thiel's employee and protege. And, Thiel's taking him to dinners with, other billionaires and this whole tech, elite tech venture capital crowd in San Francisco and on the peninsula. Peninsula is what we call the area right underneath San Francisco, below the airport. Doesn't include Burlingame. But you get down to Palo Alto and Sand Hill Road and stuff like that. And, That's where all of these legendary VC firms are, and where a lot of companies like Hewlett-Packard and Apple got started. So it's in tech, it's a legendary area, and it's a small area, and it's a small community. And so Peter Thiel was JD Vance's entree into this world and into wealth, into being wealthy. And then, starting in 2016, Peter Thiel, this was fascinating to me to read this. Peter Thiel endorsed Trump. He donated money to Trump. And then Peter Thiel was on the transition team helping to set up Trump's incoming administration. And Peter Thiel was putting out policy ideas and policy suggestions that even people like Steve Bannon were like, that goes a little too far, Peter. That one's a little, Jesus Christ. It's like when Steve Bannon is the voice of reason saying, maybe you've gone a little bit too far. And so he had a falling out with Trump and was out of politics for a bit, and but then started dabbling in it. He didn't donate to anybody in the 2020 election, but then the 2022 election comes around, and there's an open Senate seat in Ohio. There's an open Senate seat in Arizona, or not? Well, no, maybe it was an open. I don't remember. But Peter Thiel decides that he's going to go big in 2022. He backs 16 candidates, donated over $32 million that we know of, and largely funded the Senate campaigns of Blake Masters in Arizona, who I think had also worked for Peter Thiel, and he funded the campaign of JD Vance in Ohio, his former employee and protege, and put millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into those two Senate races. Blake Master lost. JD Vance won. And then we get to 2024 in the presidential election. And this whole network of these tech crypto billionaires from out here where I live, Peter Thiel, David Sachs, Elon Musk, and many others, they're like, we want one of our own on that ticket. We want one of our own on that ticket. And they got JD Vance on that ticket. And nobody knows quite sure how, but that seemed to coincide, at least a little bit, with Elon Musk saying, I'm going to give the Trump campaign $45 million a month for 4 months leading up to Election Day. Was it an explicit quid pro quo? We don't know. We'll never know. But tech billionaire, libertarian whack jobs who hate women, who have no further use for democracy, and don't think that people should be allowed to vote in the United States, picked one of their own to be Donald Trump's running mate, JD Vance. JD Vance, who has already said explicitly that if you're a woman and you have kids, your vote should count more than the votes of women who don't have kids of childbearing age. These guys like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, they want Donald Trump to essentially function as the CEO of the United States of America, and they want to be his board of directors. They want to run the United States of America through Donald Trump and JD Vance. And they think because they have billions and billions and billions of dollars, they have the right to do that, even though Elon Musk and Peter Thiel are immigrants. The two main ones. They're both immigrants. They weren't even born here. So they can never be president, but they can buy one. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Hawk After Dark. I'm going to go take a shower. We have got to get money out of politics. Anyway, thanks again to everyone who subscribes. You guys mean the world to me and my brother. And we're just going to keep cranking stuff out. As always, if you guys have ideas or suggestions or questions, leave them in the comments, especially questions, because I'm about due for another Q&A episode from the comments. So on this episode, leave all the questions that you guys have, and then the next Hawk After Dark, I will do another Q&A in response to your guys' questions. All right. It's about 20 after 9 on Monday, August 26th. I hope everybody has a fun, safe, and productive rest of your week. Be safe. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.